Have you ever looked at someone who's just, a genius in their field, but their personal life is a total train wreck? Or someone who's brilliant, but seems completely morally blind? Well, today we're going to unpack a powerful psychological framework that gives a really surprising answer to that exact question. I mean, it's a puzzle, right? We've all seen it, this person who's so incredibly smart they can analyze any problem, build an empire, compose a masterpiece, yet they make these bafflingly bad choices when it comes to their own character. How does that even happen?
So the model we're exploring today, which actually has its roots in the Quranic tradition, it looks at this from a totally different angle. It says the real source of our moral choices, our true command center, isn't the brain. It's what this tradition calls the heart.
Okay, so let's break down what this inner command center actually looks like. The best way to think about it is like a leadership team, where every single member has a very specific and very crucial role to play. First up, you've got the commander. In the original Arabic, this is the qalb, or the heart, and we're using these specific terms because they mean so much more than the English words. See, this isn't just about feelings, it's the center of meaning. It's the part of you that looks at all the information and decides what's ultimately true, what really matters, and which way to go. It has the final say. Then there's the intellect, the aql. This is your super brilliant analyst. It is incredibly powerful. It can process information, run all the scenarios, predict what's going to happen. But, and this is the absolute key in this model, it's a tool. It gives advice to the commander, it lays out the options, but it does not get to make the final decision. It works for the heart. And rounding out the team, you've got the soul, or nafs, which is where all that raw energy of our desires and ambitions comes from. And then there's the body, which carries out the commander's orders. Now, this is so important. The body's actions create habits, and those habits feed back and either make the heart stronger or weaker. It's a constant, powerful feedback loop. So you have this whole team in place. How do things go right? Or, how do they go terribly, terribly wrong? Well, it all hinges on this one critical fork in the road, and it depends entirely on the health of the commander, the heart. And this slide, this is basically the central diagnostic tool of the whole model. Get this, when the heart is healthy and pointed towards truth, it uses that brilliant intellect to find wisdom, to see things clearly, to hold back on harmful impulses. But when that same heart is sick, it hijacks that exact same brilliant intellect for a totally different reason. Rationalization. It uses all that brain power to justify its own warped desires and build these complicated arguments to deny truths it just doesn't want to face. Same tool, completely different mission. So let's take a closer look at what actually happens when that command center starts to get sick. The source material describes this not as some sudden event, but as a slow, gradual decline, a really tragic loss of its ability to connect with what's true. It starts with a state of disease, an inner conflict, where you know something's wrong, but you do it anyway. If you keep ignoring that, it leads to deviation, a conscious, repeated choice to drift away from what you know is right. And this constant refusal starts to harden the heart until it gets to a point where reminders of the truth actually become annoying. And the very last stage, it's a ceiling, where the denial is so total, so fixed, the heart just can't perceive the truth anymore, at all. And these sicknesses, they really fall into two main buckets. You've got the diseases of perception, like doubts, twisted ways of seeing things, a worldview that's just soaked in fear. And then you have the diseases of runaway desires, stuff we all recognize, right? Greed, addiction, that endless hunger for status. Okay, so how does this ancient model have anything to do with us, right here, right now? Well, the source argues that our modern world has actually built a powerful system that is a unique and constant threat to our inner command center. It's called the capture ecology. Think about it. It's a system that is always pulling our sense of worth outside of ourselves. It's telling us 24/7 that we're only as valuable as our metrics, our likes, our followers, our public visibility. It grabs our attention with nonstop noise and stimulation. And here's why that's so dangerous. This constant external focus, it leads directly to anxiety, burnout, and a deep, deep loss of meaning because it completely starves our inner life. And you can see the conflict so clearly here. A traditionally anchored inner life is guided by a higher witness and a basic sense of intrinsic worth. But the capture system? It makes the system itself the witness, and our worth is always being counted and measured. Silence, which used to be food for the heart, is now seen as a threat, an empty space that has to be filled with noise. And modesty? Kinda old-fashioned, right? Because now exposure is currency. All right, so when you're facing this massive capture ecology, how in the world do you protect your inner command center? Well, this framework doesn't just point out the problem, it actually gives us a clear protocol for survival. And let's be really clear about this. This is not about running away from the modern world or, deleting all your apps and living in a cave. It's about a conscious, intentional refusal. It's an active, daily rebellion to protect your inner integrity and take back your own focus.
And that rebellion? You can practice it with 3 daily refusals. First, refuse to let the system be your witness. Before you do something, check in with your own conscience, your own principles. Second, refuse to let visibility be your measure of worth. Do good things that nobody will ever know about. And third, refuse to let noise be your default setting. You have to actively, intentionally carve out protected moments of silence every single day.
This quote from the source material just sums it all up so perfectly. Surviving in this environment means you have to consciously protect where you place your loyalty, what you give your precious attention to, and your own private sincerity. The whole goal is to build and maintain what the tradition calls a Qalb Salim, a sound, secure, and healthy heart. So the final question is for you to think about. In a world that is expertly designed to capture your attention and tell you what you're worth, how secure is your own moral command center?